Annoying that that happened, but it happened. It just totally stopped showing me the chats. I may look at getting a tablet out here next time, but that is what it is. And I've restarted it. Hopefully you'll find it on YouTube. So I'm super excited for her, and I hope she goes for that job, and I hope she gets the offer and realize how much she is worth, because I've met the person who has that issue, and she she's been through a lot in the last, few years, and has been through a major move, right? Well, damn, I didn't get to the old. You didn't go back to the old one. No, it didn't. I'm sorry. I have no way to do that, but once I accidentally back out of YouTube app on my phone, like I have to be really careful about not hitting the screen at all. It just doesn't let me get back in. I probably could do this through StreamYard or something too on my phone though, so we may try a different one. Howdy from rural Minnesota. Anarchy, you're here. Hello, Anarchy. It's so funny. The first time I saw that name, I didn't get what was going on there. So anyway, we'll go back to the garden. Yeah, see, I'm sweaty. Super sweaty here. But these are one JFC. Yep. Look at that. These perillas are like giant. Perilla gorilla. So I think it's important when you're trying to find your passion to not worry too much about the passion. Like, is this the one? When the one comes, if you have the one, you will know it's the one. And if the one never comes, Tori, by the way, thanks for the super chat. I was wondering who it was. It wouldn't show me. That's awesome. That really helps. I really love it. I don't hate money, Super chats are a new thing to me. But if you find something you love doing and it's not the one, it's still something better than something you hate doing. And so I say, if you like something, try it. Now, the caveat is, you may not want certain things to be your job. You may want some hobbies to stay a hobby, but you just don't know till you start trying to do these things what parts you're going to like. And then it's funny because we were talking with Mike, the polymath, yesterday. Ooh, is that a snake? Are you a snake or a worm? Ah, we got a worm. Every so often we get a snake back here, and that can be super exciting, especially on hot days, because sometimes it's the kind of snakes you don't want to run across in the garden. Totally has happened to me before. But sometimes you start something, you love it for a while, and you don't love it anymore, and it's okay to move on or transition out of that once that happens. And that's, I think, really hard for us, because we've been taught never to give up, like never give up. And I mean, we want to give up. And Lone Star Living, welcome. Martinson family, I probably already said it, but welcome. But if you're doing something you hate, you should give up. If you can, you should move on to something that you love, or at least like. Why would you waste time? Ooh, that scape I can still eat. Cool. Why would you waste time on things you hate? I have a friend who wrote a book, Don't Do Things You Hate. He is not wrong. He actually recently moved to Tennessee, and surprisingly, I think I figured something out about friends from my former world who moved to Tennessee. I've gotten so used to people in the podcast audience being like, hey, I'll come to an event and talk to me, or I'm driving through, is this a good time? And if it's not, it's not. And if it is, it is. Kind of inviting themselves by, that I forget that other people wait for me to invite them over. And that's kind of funny. Anyway, I was just telling the wife that a messing garden was okay, and we needed to share Nicole's Garden 30 with everyone. That's right, Grumpy. Look who's here. It's Clover. Hey, Clover. You want some Bodoc? I got Bodoc. Here. You want a Bodoc leaf? You should totally eat this, Clover. You want this? Here you go. You gonna eat that? You're not sure you want that? There she goes. That's what's happening to all the Garden 30 stuff when it goes. I usually throw it over the fence at her. It's kind of funny. Self-inviting is a country thing. I guess that's true. Yeah, my garden, like the perilla in the garden patch, I was hoping that somebody else would deal with this, but I'm going to be dealing with it. It's almost like half as tall as I am. It's crazy. Like, and then some of these scapes are like so developed that we have on the elephant garlic, we have blooms. Is that milkweed? No. Okay. I have yet to see milkweed in the flesh, by the way. And I was asking Nick about it today because, yeah, you've been giving all your weeds to the ducks. Good job, Tori. Multitasking. They'll make compost out of it way faster than your compost bin. But I've been wanting to see what it looks like because we keep having sheep get bloat and we're not sure why. And I thought, well, maybe they're getting into something they shouldn't have and they shouldn't have milkweed. And I'm like, is this milkweed? No. Is that milkweed? No. Okay. Then Nick goes, honestly, Nicole, I've never seen milkweed on your property. I was like, fine. I will accept that. But we did discover something today that's kind of important that we do have that sheep probably shouldn't eat that I did not know and hadn't thought about. And apparently the mimosa tree, which is blooming right now, can be harmful to goats. I mean, not goats, but sheep. Probably also goats. And yeah, Justin, you don't have any animals to give yours to. That's okay. Maybe someday you will. Just depends on where you decide to land long term. If you're going to stay there or move on somewhere else, who knows? Life happens, man. Life happens. Next thing you know, you have 11 sheep and you're up at 2:45 in the morning saving one and it lives. And you're super happy about that. And then you start calling it Floki too. You realize you should probably look at what its actual name probably is. But that's just me. It probably has a name. One of these times. I'll actually probably look that up tonight. But it's just interesting how life gets away from you. Just like this perilla. And underneath it, I have these beautiful garlics. Like, the cool thing is, I was a little worried about what this was going to mean for my garlic crop. If you look, the weeds aren't really up in the garlic. They're in the row between the garlic. So, I remember Goat-ageddon when the goat kept getting out. Oh, yeah. No, the goat still gets out. She just hasn't gotten on the roof in a while. And she has taught us a lot about fencing. So last night, while I'm, working with the sheep on his bloat problem, which required me to have hands on the sheep, we were right by a fence between the goat and the sheep because they're not intermingled yet. They will eventually be intermingled. And she started, well, first of all, they got all this awesome Timothy hay last night, like extra Timothy hay, because putting dry matter in a bloated belly really helps your ruminants, apparently. And I was figuring if the dude wanted to eat, then I should, that one was hard, get him something to eat. Did you see that? I had to wrap that around my hand like the whole time. Probably going to end up with a huge like rash right there. This is because the ground's really dry. Some of these are just breaking off at the ground, but it is what it is. So she started headbutting the fence, which was causing some alarm from the already not happy animal that I'm trying to save that doesn't want me to touch it, right? And finally I was like, tactical, just give her hay too. So he throws hay behind her and she can't see it because it's dark, so she keeps headbutting the gate, or not the gate but the fence. And finally I grabbed some of the hay that was on the, and there's an electric fence between us, so like you don't want to accidentally hit the electric fence, even with the hay, because it'll like travel up that little grass blade and it'll shock you, not as badly as touching the fence itself. And she stopped when I dropped the hay in front of her face, and then she finally found the other one. Meanwhile, the other goat's like, sweet. The other goat was smarter than Clover and had found the hay that was thrown way in the back. Of course, that one always finds the stuff in the back because she's the skittish one. But that was just a whole nother adventure. Yeah, it is what it is. If the goat gets on the roof again, guys, I will tell you. It could totally happen. That's like the biggest violet I've ever seen. Look how big. This is a violet leaf. That's as big as my hand. The ground over here has got some good stuff going on. That's all I'm going to say. You are a garlic. You get to stay. You are perilla. You do not get to stay. What else do you guys want to talk about? Is anybody else doing their gardening while they're listening to this? If you are you having trouble chatting to me because you're doing your gardening and your hands are busy? My hands are totally busy. You know what else is happening after I do this? This garlic needs 1 inch of water. The way we used to measure that when I was a kid is we'd take a tuna fish tin and put it out and run the sprinkler. And then when the tuna fish tin was full, that meant you had watered 1 inch, because that's about 1 inch of water and it's got straight sides. And I thought that was pretty clever of my grandpa to teach me that. My grandpa was a master gardener, by the way. I'm not sure any of it rubbed off on me, but it doesn't. His garden would have never looked like this, just for the record. So yeah, current events. Don't know what's up because I was up in the middle of the night with that sheep. Couldn't go back to sleep after all that energy. And then Nick Ferguson was here, and we're putting together a plan for a food forest for my property. And I think what is going to happen, guys. Oh, this one wants to be cut. That's just a big old. That's a big old ragweed thingy. Not ragweed, it's got some other name. Anyway, we're going to do a little event here showing how to get the ground ready. So like the initial planning for the food forest that's going in on my property and the initial earthworks for it. We'll have a backhoe here, or an excavator rather. And I really hate that I let the perilla get this tall, but I was at Self-Reliance Festival. So that's going to be probably in November after Jack's workshop. That's when I think I'm doing that. We're going to keep students limited because during this time, the other thing that's happening is I start producing a lot of coffee orders. I, of course, have to check dates with Mama Sauce, make sure it's going to work for her. But we're going to have hands-on workshop, probably not involving you having to shovel things, but because we are hiring the excavator guy to do it, I'm assuming he will be available. Lots of assumptions going. And we're going to talk about the plan. And then at my spring workshop in April, we are actually going to do the planting of the things in the food forest. And when I do that, that'll be I think it'll be fun because we won't have to do the whole thing in 1 3-day period of time. We'll do parts of it that we can finish all the way while also having all the awesome sessions that we usually, there went my headset, all the awesome sessions that we usually have at the spring workshop. And sorry for all of the crazy noise. I'm wearing a headset mic this time because I thought yesterday's audio was probably pretty sketchy and I should just suck it up and get out my wireless one and see if the sound could be a little better today. So, does it sound better today? I think it is. I got rocked out with my Amazon most liked playlist. Went from Disturbed to Chicago and then to Tina Turner. All right, that's pretty good. If you're not fast enough and not scared to be bitten, you can snatch a cud from one of the others and give it. Oh, that's interesting. Give it to the one with the upset tummy. I did not know that. What I did is made a liquid baking soda blend and forced it down the mouth of the one that didn't feel good, and then burped it like a baby, except for not like a baby. Burped it like a sheep, and it burped. Whoop. And every time it burped, we're like, yeah, keep burping, buddy, keep burping. It's still feeling a little, like today it's better. It's walking around mostly like normal, but it's not moving as fast as it usually does, so we're keeping an eye on him. I'm probably going to force him to have one more dose of some liquid baking soda water, because I mean, they have free access to baking soda, and every other ruminant in my life until I got sheep, which is goats, that's all they've ever needed. I've never had to really intervene on bloat. But then I'm wondering if it's that they're getting into like little baby sprouting mimosas from time to time. So now we're scouting out, is there ragweed Or is there mimosa before we move the sheep, in advance of moving the sheep? And the good news is there's not a lot of it. We are going to probably take the mimosa trees off the property completely, if just because, so that we don't have a branch fall and have the sheep eat it and then have a really unfortunate day, because apparently they will eat stuff that kills them. Audio's great. Good to hear that. This is a headset that Jack Spirko recommended when he started doing his Miyagi mornings. And he realized that he had recorded some Miyagi mornings and ended up with really crappy audio. And so he started looking for a solution, because just recording straight into the phone wouldn't work. And this little set comes with a lav mic, the headset mic I have on that totally gets knocked off if you hit it with Perilla when you're weeding. And it works pretty good. I've had trouble charging it in the past. And then I realized, stupid me, because you have to charge two things. You have to charge the thing that plugs into your phone, and you have to charge the thing that transmits to the thing that plugs into your phone. I realized that it came with a splitter charger cable that I could have been using all this time instead of my existing mini USB or whatever size that is, micro USB that it comes with. So garlic's actually looking pretty good. I literally think we should stop using the word literally so much. But I do think we should be able to harvest and start curing this garlic in about another week. And that's about right. I'll have to look at my calendar and see when it was ready last year. It's going to be over 100 next week. So that ought to be interesting. I'm going to look forward to digging garlic out of the ground at 100 degrees. Anybody else excited for that moment? That is the life of a homesteader. That is the life of a homesteader. So yeah, current events, I don't got much. I did talk. So something I was impressed with at Self-Reliance Festival, I got to know the EMP Shield guys really well. And so I've heard about EMPs and protecting against EMPs and, you know, a bunch of fake products. And I'm like, are we even going to have an EMP? Like, why are we, this is not what my channel is about. And I'm looking forward to not being in the heat you're in. Yeah, looking forward to not being in the heat I'm in too. What happens after this is I take a shower, change my clothes, and I don't go outside again. And usually dinner's after that. Then I go to bed super early, fall asleep so I can wake up in the middle of the night to a strange voice saying, I need help with the sheep. Anyway, not that I'm bitter. So their product protects against an EMP, like if there was that. But what it does is it, more importantly, is a protection against an unstable power grid, which I said, okay, so let me get this straight. If you're struck by lightning, this thing protects against that. They're like, yeah, and if it doesn't, they have, I believe, some liability insurance that will cover some costs. I don't know exactly what the specs on that are. I'm going to read about it later. But, you know, it's more likely you're going to get hit by lightning than somebody's going to detonate an EMP over your house, right? And if they do, and your house is protected, how well does that help you if the entire electric system's been taken out? These are questions I wonder when we talk about these things. But lightning, on the other hand, lightning's an issue. In fact, when we put the roasting shack power in, I wanted to have a surge protector put in, and I just wasn't quite ready to pay for it. And so we wired it so I could add it. And it looks like the EMP Shield product will do what I wanted that surge protector. I said, here's what happens here though. Like my perception of what's going on is a tree is bouncing on the line. So the power's on and off and on and off and on and off. And he said, that's the surge protection. So we have surge protection on this device. And when that bounce is happening, it's surging. What that's not protecting me against is the off part of that. And what happens to protect you against the surge is the unit burns out. So for like, I don't know, under $400, you have this thing that burns out instead of blowing out all your appliances and other stuff in your house. So I think we're going to do a video installing it. I'm going to get one installed on the roasting shack to protect the roaster against surges, because we've had a huge increase in the kind of surgy behavior here this year for some reason. And now they're talking about brownouts and all those other things. I had a question today about what I do to get ready for brownouts. And I think that's an interesting question. What would you do to get ready for a brownout? 70 today, huh, Justin? Yeah, you all talking about sheep trying to kill themselves reminds Tori of something. Seen in Secret Lives of Pets too, when the sheep gets itself in danger. I haven't seen that, but cool. Could you run the roaster on a battery 70 amps? No. I mean, yes. Can I? Would that be cost prohibitive? Yes. That's just, it would be a very big battery to do that. It's easier to just do it on a Jenny if I'm going to do it. But what I have is a propane roaster. Hey, Red Flyer, welcome. What I have is a smaller roaster that runs on propane, and it needs some power to run a blower. It needs about 12 amps for that, and I can run it on my generator. I sized my generator to be able to run that, so I won't be able to produce as much with no power, but I can still produce coffee, and you know, I figure the power eventually comes on. So question though was, what would you do to prepare for brownout? And we're all talking about brownouts because it's really hot right now. And the power company's saying, well, gosh darn, we got a lot of power getting drawn and we kind of need some people to back off on that. So please turn your thermostats up to 78 degrees. And then got a bunch of people saying, screw that, and putting pictures of their power or their thermostats on 68 degrees and whatever. I can't help but think that the taxing of the power grid here is in part due to the amount of growth we have had. We have added multiple properties, all of whom are running air conditioning right now. They're like, it's the most power we've used in June. And I'm like, yeah, it's also pretty hot right now. And so people are running their AC. And this one is not one I would want livestock to eat. That one is a bad one. But what I do to get ready for a brownout personally, not anything different than, oh, there goes my headset again. Sorry, guys. I get exuberant and then everything falls off. Like, the glasses fall off. I have to rotate the device. I still have comments. Woo! I dropped my little transmitter tool. I'm going to like clip that to my chest or something. Maybe that'll stop this whole thing. It's no different than getting ready for any power outage, right? Or, you know, I think a lot of us prepare for winter power outages and don't think about summer ones. But in Tennessee, we get a lot of things happening where we have windy weather coming through, right? Like the twisty, the flying monkeys, you know, as our local weather guy would call them. The flying monkeys are the tornadoes, and those cause power outages, and those happen often when it's warm. So how I prepare for a power outage is I get myself ready to be without power for a week or two. I started though by being ready for power to be out for a few hours, and then for a day, and then for 2 days. And what do you worry about when your power's out, right? Besides the fact it's annoying. Most people, okay? I'm not talking about somebody on a life-saving oxygen machine. I'm talking about what do we not have access to? We cannot recharge our batteries. So a best practice is to keep your batteries charged or topped off as much as possible at all times. That means not letting your phone get down to 0 like you do. That means if you have a battery backup pack, make sure it goes on the charger when your phone's not on the charger. Like, that's not that hard to do. And the other thing that's a pain is if you use electricity for things like heating water and you use all your hot water, you cannot reheat the water. However, if you have a tanked water heater, that water will stay warm for days until you use it. How do I know this? Because every time one of my renters has power go out, you know what happens? Or has a water heater go out, I don't know, for 2 days. You know why I don't? Because they don't know for 2 days. So that's another one. Get a battery backup. It's calling for 90s there. Woo, sounds hot. And the other thing is have enough gas to run a generator if you get to the point where you're gonna have a generator. But you can also turn your car into a small generator. What are you looking to do with your generator, right? I have a generator that's sized bigger because I want to run a coffee roaster with it so I can keep producing for my business. It's not a whole house one though. I have a neighbor with a whole house one that we end up using here whenever the power goes out. Because the other thing we have here are freezers and refrigerators. So we want to keep things cold. Well, how long do things stay cold in your fridge if you don't open it? Another important question. Can you go 12 hours without opening your fridge? Probably. Or when the power goes out, you open it one time real fast, take everything out that you've planned in advance you're going to need. Put that in a cooler to keep kind of cool. I mean, choose things you really need, guys. What do you really need from your fridge in a 12-hour period of time? And then leave the fridge closed. You can add extra insulation by putting blankets over it. But know when the power comes back on, if blankets are covering the vents of your fridge, you can burn out your fridge. Same goes for your freezers. If you don't open your freezer, it will stay cold and frozen for a very, very long time. Like more than a day often. It will stay fine. As long as your freezer is not half empty. If your freezer is half empty, then it will warm up faster. So we call this, this next thing you do, a thermal battery. Now, it's not a heat thermal battery, it's a cool thermal battery. When you have extra jugs, you've had something out of, like milk or whatever, you fill them halfway with water or 3/4 of the way with water, and throw them in an empty space in your freezer if there's an empty space in your freezer. And if there's an empty space in your freezer and you fill it up with what turns into a big old block of ice, you use Ziploc baggies, use all sorts of stuff for this. That is a thermal cooling battery, and it helps keep the temperature of your freezer colder longer. And then of course you can insulate them, and then you don't open them. Every time you open them, you're warming it up. If you're not able to cool it back down again, that equals bad. Now the next thing is if you have a generator or a friend has a generator and comes over, you can plug your freezer in for about half an hour to an hour. It cools back down a couple times a day. Just keep it topped off. Again, if you have insulative materials around it, you do not want to have them blocking where the fan is, basically. You see the vents. Don't do that. That's preparing for a power brownout, same way. Now, next, how are you and your animals staying cool? What you're not going to do is run your entire whole house air conditioner, right? You're going to end up, I put my chest freezer in the basement to give it extra time. Exactly. It's cooler in the basement. Mine gets just hashed by the sun, one of them. But you want to stay cool too. My strategy is different than yours. If you have a generator, which is like super awesome, you can run a window unit if you get the right size generator, and that's not bad. If you don't have a generator and you want to stay cool, how do you stay cool? Ooh, excuse me. Something here I'm allergic to. Sorry. Woo. I might have to end this soon. Okay, so how do you stay cool? I stay cool by going to the creek. I'm gonna go get water. Holy cow. By the way, this is not done. This is my progress. Looks like a barren wasteland, but I'm 3/4 done. Anyway, I go sit in the creek. I go find shady parts of my land that are cooler. Where the sheep are right now is 5 to 10 degrees cooler than in front of my house. So if I can't cool down, like right now, I can't cool down because I'm outside and it's hot outside. I can go stand down that hill right there and it's cooler. I can walk there and go to the creek. Now, if you don't have that, What do you have? Look, rabbit poop. That's going in next. Do you have a swimming pool? Do you have a stock tank you can get into? Is there something local? Is there a cool place where it can get a breeze? Do you have a battery operated fan? Like, that's what you want to think about in brownouts. And then think about what happens usually in brownouts, right? Power goes out for 2 to 4 hours, not days. If your house is cold going into that, it will warm up, but it will not warm up too much. And so by keeping the doors and windows closed, you keep the cool in. If it does start warming up to where it's warmer inside than outside, you open your doors, right? Oh, look at this poor hydrangea. This poor little hydrangea is just getting fried this week. We're going to water that tonight. I'm to the watering phase of my Garden 30. I've gone way over 30 minutes, of course. So, I mean, that's what I think of. What else has electricity that needs it? And how can I do something different? It's not ideal. Hello, Nick. Look, Nick Ferguson, everybody. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. 2 to 4 hours isn't very long. Like, your freezer is not going to, it's not going to open. Apparently the hose was on. It's not going to defrost. Your fridge doesn't have to get warm. If they do brownouts when you know they're happening, then you can plan it in advance. If you don't, and you keep things cold and frozen and your freezer stocked with that thermal battery, you're going into it way better than if you're just like, whatever happens, happens. And also, Tactical, I just totally knocked over the seeds that were right in the middle of my thing. So he's going to want to clean those up. Anyway, so that's what I would do if there is anything going on with brownouts. I think it could happen. I think it's likely to happen here because we're already being prepped for it, communications-wise, to happen. So I guess be ready for it, right? Mr. Billy, what? Wait a second. Now I'm looking at your things. I should get a battery to run my computer so I can get, yeah, exactly. Battery backup on your computer. All of those things. Tori, you're a celebrity. That's right. Woo! Oh, Permapastures Farms came in. Hey, Billy. We were just doing the garden half where I try to catch up on the cluster that is my weeding situation. I do this 30 minutes every day. What does that say? One thing I use a lot are water timers for my garden areas. Yep. We have water timers there too, Boyd. I want them to go about an hour every third day right now because we haven't had rain in forever, which is unusual for Tennessee. And yeah, the situation is this hydrangea is super sad. Just gonna water it for a long time. But that's what I think about the rolling brownouts, man. It's probably gonna happen, especially if it stays this hot. Way into the summer, we're all gonna want it more. Red Flyer says, I have 2 generators. Most important for me is my electrical equipment. I only run my computers with a battery, so you don't mess it up with your generator. Some generators will mess up your computer, guys. Yeah, you may not know that. Like, you have to, I can't remember what it is you need to look for. Hopefully somebody on this chat is smarter than I am and knows, like, some generators are not made to be used with electronics. And so I think what Red Flyer is saying is she charges her batteries and then runs her equipment off the batteries that she's charged so she doesn't mess up and have like the wrong phase of electricity through there. I'm not sure what to do about the seed dump that just happened. I just did not realize those were there, which is why I didn't want them there. So yeah. Hey, Tactical, I made a mess. Anyway, this is like Timothy grass and probably clover or something. What aquaponics method do I use? Well, the 2. So over here, this is a flush and fill bed or ebb and flow bed. Fills up, empties, fills up, empties. These are 2 wicking beds. And so I'm using both of those in this system. And I like the wicking beds for growing fruiting things. And I like this for more like rooting stuff, or I'm keeping celery alive here. That was celery from the store. I just planted the heart and a big old celery plant. So it does well there. This sticky looking thing is it was watercress, and watercress likes to die up here. Once you get into this time of year, it dies back, goes back underwater. I've looked at the crack key method, uses no electricity. Yeah, I've used crack key. I use crack key to grow my lettuce in the winter. And then I'm doing a deep water hydroponics over here, which is crack key light because there's an air gap on the tomato buckets between the roots and the water. The water's down where that drain is. That's the level, and then there's all air there. The water fills and goes back into the sump here on a 15-minute timer. I'm having to top that every day, though, until they get done. And look, I mean, it's doing great. And then this is more like, I haven't trellised this yet, but this is straight up hydroponics. Water's constantly flowing through here. And this I showed yesterday. This one, before Self-Reliance Festival, I just put a tomato sucker in there and it's rooted like that much. So I get a lot of production out of the water system. It's why I stopped doing so much gardening for a while. I mean, I've got my lettuce is bolting, so we're progression. I'm putting other things in here right now. I've got, you know, whatever you are. Oh, beans. Look, I have beans. These are noodle beans. I'm super excited. And I have this squash coming out of here. And there's a tomato over there. And then the lettuce I'll just cut back. Over here I have more herbs. I have a sweet potato going. Duck potato in there. All sorts of cool stuff. These are the wicking beds. So it's soil, then a weed barrier, and then water flowing through. Like something about that moving water really helps. I've got water hyacinth, which is edible here. Those plants I'm just rooting. That's some wine berries from under the shed. And then this is the fill and flesh bed where I took a sage cutting, right, from the other bed, and now it's rooted. So I can actually pull that out and transplant it. I don't want to pull it out right now, but I'll pull it out. So let's see if you can see the roots if I dig down. Right now we're almost at the flush part of fill and flush. But there's a good root mass here coming right there. So I'm going to put that back in, hope it doesn't die. So these sage plants are for Sage, my dog, who is dead now. I'm going to put those on her grave later so she has a big old sage patch on her grave. That's the plan. Yeah. Got to go figure out supper, okay? Thanks for being here. What complete fertilizer solution do I use? I don't use... So in here, I've got compost tea going in that bucket. I put some coffee grounds and eggshells and refuse from here in there. And it fertilizes, and the fish eat stuff, and they poop, and they fertilize. So sometimes I'll foliar feed this stuff. I have put like at the beginning of the season, I put rabbit poop in both the beds, but I don't do a lot of fertilizing here because this is an aquaponics system that's starting to become more balanced. And I'm getting pretty good balanced fertility. For the tomatoes, for the wall of tomatoes, I use Texas tomato food. It's over here. We're putting some Epsom salts in because I'm starting to get some, see this leaf? It was looking pretty bad 2 days ago. It actually is looking better. What happened is while I was gone, the person filling the water filled a lot of water. And so the ratio of Texas tomato food nutrient to water was off. And so it was just nitrogen deficient. But I add calcium and magnesium. We add worm casting tea to this system. Look, I got a big old tomato. Little green one. Where are you? I can't get my phone. There we go. See? Tomato. And that works really well. I'll go through that whole gallon this year. This gallon cost me about 20 bucks. I think it's gone up since then. If I run out of this, I'm working on experimenting with worm casting tea only, which I've heard is possible, but I'm not quite willing to risk the 200 pounds of tomatoes I aim to get off this wall of tomatoes, right? And this wall serves a couple purposes. It shades the south part of my house from the sun, which helps me not have to cool as much inside, gives me food, and frankly, I just love my tomatoes. It's kind of like I love my roses, right? I like caring for them. These ones that are hanging down low, I'm going to be training sideways to block the black buckets from the sun. And I'll put some burlap back there. And last year I got 125 pounds from this. And so we added the other tomatoes over there. Our goal is 200 pounds of tomatoes. So that's what that is. Natural. Yeah, I'm not all natural on the tomatoes. I'm all natural on the aquaponics. Okay, guys, that's been the Garden 30 for today. It's time for me. It's been 39 minutes on this live feed and 16 on the other, so it was like the Garden 60. But I had a lot to do. I'll be back out probably tomorrow, maybe not. It's Friday tomorrow. I might like chill out and go sit in the creek in my natural air conditioner down there. But I'm going to start doing these more often. Really appreciate you coming in, Tori. Thanks again for the super chat. I really appreciate that. And we'll see you later. Let's stay accountable, guys. That's what this is all about, is accountability. Goodbye, Red Flyer Media.